some of my more successful cases are when both attorneys are open-minded. So open-mindedness is a skill in itself because, for instance, even if someone came to me today, I do an initial consultation, I need to be open-minded, number one, to what this potential client is saying, but also how is the defendant company going to respond? What are their thoughts? What if I put myself in their shoes and when I put myself in the potential client's shoes?
Welcome to another dose of Empire, where we share stories to elevate and inspire. My name is Mimi, and I'll be your host for today. I am honored to introduce our next guest. She is an entrepreneur, owner of her own law firm, and a lawyer you want on your side. Please help me welcome Kelly. Do you think the law field is a little bit saturated? Is that something, I know I hear that say all the time, especially in South Florida. I think we have a lot of lawyers. Is that something you think is accurate?
In a way, it's saturated with bad attorneys in some respects, because I don't think all attorneys are, they don't care as much, or they're not as knowledgeable, or they're allowed to get away with a lot of things. I've had a friend contact me because she did an initial consultation and they took a bunch of money, and then there wasn't a need to go through with the case, and I had to intervene to make sure they got repaid. And you see a lot of sketchy things happen, unfortunately. And I think those things wouldn't happen if maybe the wrong people weren't gravitating to that field to take advantage of people, if they weren't so money hungry. Trust me, I want money, but I'm going to do it in an ethical way and according to my moral parameters to get the best outcome. And I still can get the best outcome being proper. But a lot of people get out of those parameters for the greed or lust of money. And plus, I mean, it's South Florida. There can be a lot of sketchy stuff in general happening.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I stay busy. I know a lot of my friends stay busy. There's a lot of I think there's plenty of people out there that need help, especially, for instance, employment law. A lot of people have gone through employment discrimination or unlawful acts in the workplace, but they don't even know about their rights, or they're afraid to use their rights. They're afraid to talk to attorneys or bring a case. In most cases in employment, don't even go into public court. They're behind the scenes and aren't really public. So there's plenty of cases and people to go around and to help in many ways.
You mentioned employment law. For any law student, maybe in their second year or maybe their first, what would you say to them, maybe thinking about going to employment law? And second part of this, how did you find that calling for you?
It wasn't 100% planned, but I always really loved constitutional law, and I loved contract law. And and also human rights law, like on a more international level, because then you get into the natural laws that are for all of humanity. Even before the UN was developed, we had certain morals as a global society, and later was transcribed into some basic laws. And a lot of those laws are reflected in many countries, or they go by different names. For instance, while a lot of countries and also different states call things human rights, a lot of people in the US know them as civil rights. So they're all basically the same thing, just called different things at different points. And I kind of had a legal minor in human rights, and saw a firm in New York after working some time in Miami, and they were offering a position that got a lot of experience. You basically are plopped in court and get to go off running with a bunch of cases, court, lots of boots on the grounds experience, and I ended up going in that direction.
That's awesome. Now, sounds like you got the perfect opportunity there. I'm not a lawyer, so I would assume experience. You want to get exposed as many as possible until it becomes second nature. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yeah, make sure you have great mentors in your life. I have a lot of great attorneys that are willing to take me on as an intern or as a first year associate. And I beg them to get more experience. Be hungry for the experience, even if you're not getting paid a lot of money. Like, forget about money for your first, 5 years if you have to. Get that experience because it's so valuable. In whatever field it is. I really wanted to be a litigator, so I mentored with litigators. My first time in court actually was with an attorney I was assisting with who did family law, and I went to family law court for my very first time all by myself for her. So get your experience, and also be a good writer. Law review, being an editor with law review changed my life by changing my writing. And I became a way better attorney because I became a better writer in law school by being on law review and editing others' work, because being a good writer is probably most important for all attorneys, whether you're a litigator or not. You need to be clear and concise in your writing.
I love it. I think I've heard that before. Writing, be ready to write and also be ready to read as well. With that being said, what is one skill would you say it's vital? Obviously, you mentioned writing. The reading part, I feel like it's a giving because you have to read cases. Would you say something that you see lacking in the field today?
I don't know if it's lacking, but I think it's a skill that a lot of attorneys that I go up against have. I always think some of my more successful cases are when both attorneys are open-minded. So open-mindedness is a skill in itself, because, for instance, even if someone came to me today, I do an initial consultation. I need to be open-minded, number one, to what this potential client is saying, but also how is the defendant company going to respond? What are their thoughts? What if I put myself in their shoes and when I put myself in the potential client's shoes? Because there's always different perspectives, and I try to be open to those perspectives to see where there was a breakdown in communication, where was the problem, and that allows me to see better how, when I apply the law, who's going to be at fault. Because sometimes there's things that happen to plaintiffs and they don't know the full story, and that I'm not blaming them either. But I want to know what the full story is so I can see what's the direction we're going to go in and what's the proper direction. Like, for instance, if I know my client, if I took on a case and maybe my client's lying, hopefully not, or maybe there's a misunderstanding.
Right.
I don't want to take that case on for 2 or 3 years and go to trial if it's clear like her perception of something was wrong and there was a misunderstanding. And that's why it's good to have be willing to view different perspectives, be in other people's shoes, and that way you can get to the correct outcome. It may not be the outcome you want. I always have to tell people what's like the correct outcome versus what they want. I wish I could tell them that's the correct answer, but sometimes it's a different answer and people don't want to hear it.
Oh, I get it. It makes sense. You want to make sure you stay open-minded to really kind of see all sides, to make that not to make the decision for your client, but to help them. You sound like a therapist, by the way.
I do that in a way, unofficially, because I wanted to bring it up earlier. While I wanted to be a medical doctor, and I don't give medical advice at all to my clients, but I do come across in my cases, I get a lot of cases that are connected to psychology or medicine or physical disabilities, or physical injuries. I have a case where my client ended up with a severe back injury, and I had to depose a few surgeons and get familiar with those terms and what is this issue, and like read up on it. And with psychology, a lot of cases deal with emotional distress damages, and getting diagnoses from my clients, whether it's a therapist or expert psychologist I send them to, or if they can't afford someone, letting them know where there's low cost or free resources for therapy. There's so many resources out there, especially for victims of sexual harassment or sexual assault. And there's a lot of resources out there for people. And quite often, because of these traumatic events that I have to keep talking to my clients about, because it's connected to their case, they become emotional, or they open up to me a lot. And I have to be that shoulder for them at times. And hopefully they also have therapy on their side too. But I see a lot of it and have to assist my clients with a lot of it at times.
I'm sure.
And it brought that conversation up, I think, for the benefit of all people, because now specifically men are thinking of my mom, my sister, or some other female, my girlfriend, my wife, they've been through this, and it kind of puts it out there, that uncomfortable situation.